My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voices of Wrestling Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hey there, Thunder Buddies and Travelers down Thunder Road. It's us, Days of Thunder, the WCW Thunder rewatch podcast that you didn't ask for, but we did anyway, coming to us part of the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network and powered by largemanappears.com. I'm your host, your jack-o'-lantern on Thunder Road, Dave Ryan, and I'm joined, as I am every week, by my faithful co-host. He's Stagger Lee Malone. Lee, how are you?
I'm not feeling very Halloween-y. I mean, it's the middle of summer here.
I'll tell you, I felt like a Halloweeny by the end of this show. We'll get into it. Yeah, it feels. This is the thing about doing a show at the pace we're doing it. Like, we're not doing it on a certain, like, we're not keeping pace like a weekly show that's about a weekly show. We're bi-weekly about a show from 25 years ago. So we're way out of whack.
There is occasions where the calendar syncs, and we'll be talking about a fucking bash at the beach or whatever in the middle of summer, and it's great.
Yeah.
And then you get to, like,
but this year we're going to be talking about Starrcade in the middle of the summer.
Why not? That's what. Okay, yeah. That's when WWE did one, isn't it?
True enough. Yeah, they're Starrcade.
And I mean, WWE is never wrong. I mean,
no, 100%. But how have you been? You are back in the world of waking up at stupid o'clock in the morning.
I am
and stuff. How's that going for you?
I mean, well, it's affecting my podcasting career, so that's not good. You got
to quit.
That's the podcast, Stokely. Yeah, no problem.
No, you're locked in on that.
It's good. I'm really happy to be back in the land of the working, and but I just need to adjust and get my body clock adjusted, and hopefully we won't have to record, in the middle of the night all the time. We can make something work for both of us.
The idea will be that before long we're going to bank a couple of episodes so that we're in advance, because with your employment situation changing for the better and mine going into a busy summer as per, it's kind of, we're going to have these weeks where both yourself and myself are going to be absolutely flat out, and we don't want to make it a habit of releasing this late in the week when we usually do shoot for like a Monday, Tuesday sort of drop.
I do feel like we've been saying for 3.5 years that we're going to have episodes banked, and we never quite get there.
For about 2 months this year, we were 2 shows ahead.
We were.
And it was beautiful. And I aspire to get there. I've been circling. There's like a portion at the end of the June where, to the end of June, where after I come back from my birthday trip, my work hasn't picked up in busyness yet. It's actually dies down a little bit during the state exams. So I'm like, this could be a double week.
And that's great because I'm on holidays at the end of June.
This guy, eh? Absconding with the Patreon money again.
It's not absconding. And I know where it's going.
Yeah. The money was just resting in your account. I've had a pretty good week. Like, things are pretty busy now. It's going to be a hectic weekend.
I feel like you just threw that in because I didn't ask. I should have asked. Dave, how's your life been?
Oh, well, good you to ask, Lee. Yeah, I had a good weekend last weekend. We had unseasonably warm weather for Ireland because we've had a really long kind of sludgy spring. And last weekend, all of a sudden, the weather just turned beautiful. So we went down to the south coast of Ireland, southeast coast of Ireland. We went to a place called Tramore.
Ah, very nice.
Waterford, which I'm sure Lee knows plenty about. It tends to be a kind of like a seaside hotspot for a lot of Irish people. For those of you who wonder what Irish, it sounds like such a beautiful, elegant language. Tramore comes from the Irish Tramore, which quite literally means big beach. So we're an incredibly literal people.
Those Celts, they had a way with words.
Some of them are quite elegant. Like the Irish for whiskey is Ishkabaha, which means the water of life. So there's your little Irish lesson with the lads there for the week. But speaking of whiskey, I did have one of the nicest whiskey sours I've ever had in my life when I was down there. A cocktail is good when it essentially just tastes like really nice fruit juice. And this was just a beautiful glass of citrus and ice, and it was just like, you wouldn't tell that there was quite a considerable amount of whiskey in it. It was beautiful. I had plenty of food. I had the Waterford tradition for breakfast one day, which is a thing called a blah. Yes, which is a very specific kind of floury white bap or bread roll, whatever way you want to put it, with a soft crust on the outside. The people of Waterford pride themselves on this particular piece of bread, and they say it's only a good blah if it's already stale by that evening. This is what I've been told. So any of your ones that you get store bought in Ireland that last like a couple of days, shite. So I had a breakfast blah with my bits of breakfast on top of it. I had something I was just like, fuck it, I'm in the mood for trying stuff I haven't tried in a while or haven't tried in a long time. I had black pudding for the first time in many years. I don't know what your thoughts on black pudding are, Lee, but like, it's a dish of diminishing returns for me.
What?
I had the first bite and I was like, oh yeah, like this is really nice. It's the only thing where the cognitive dissonance of what it is very hard for me to get over. Like, it goes by the name blood pudding for a reason. Mm-hmm. The primary ingredient is fucking blood.
Yes.
in this pudding. And for some reason, even though like with most other foods and even with steak, which I like, medium, so there is still like traces of blood in it. I don't have a problem with that, but for some reason with the black pudding, every subsequent bite I'm just like, oh no, I just can't do this.
Well, see, I like my food the way I like my wrestling matches with more blood, so I'm a big fan of the black pudding.
I think you're going to say just chops. You like chops. That's it.
No, I love a bit of black pudding. Black pudding adds to anything.
I like white pudding.
That's just bland.
I like white pudding, especially when they make it a little spicy. They put the herbs in.
Black pudding is herbs in them. That's what black pudding is. No. See, you're just again. You are wrong. I am right. Black pudding adds to things.
What I did have was that was absolutely delicious because it was on the menu and I was like, well, I'm not going to eat this by itself, but also I'm already having a blast. Maybe I'm going to have one slice of it. So myself and Emma split it. It was a portion of Guinness and walnut soda bread.
Oh.
Now that, my friend, was... Oh, absolutely delicious. Much lighter than you would expect something with those as the principal ingredients to be. It was really nice, really kind of... I don't even call it smooth. Like a really nice kind of... Like soft for a soda bread. Like it doesn't have that kind of... Do you know, there's that kind of... Not toughness, but there's like a fibrousness to brown bread or soda bread usually that just wasn't here. It was just this, oh my god, it was very, very nice. If you're ever in Tremor, check out the V Cafe. Really, really nice spot for breakfast. So that kind of left me in a really chill spot after the weekend. I've had a hard few weeks in work. Things have been pretty stressful. So that chilled me out. And then I came back and had the pleasure of watching Halloween Havoc 1999. And that's just reset the fucking clock to zero. But before we get to that, Lee, you've got to do your best used car salesman bit. So please let everybody know what we got going on at the moment.
So before I even plug our Patreon, I want to say now is the time for anybody in your life that you may think might enjoy the show, because this is the show. This is the moment that everyone anticipates when they go on their WCW rewatch. It's Russo taking over. Yeah. And if ever there was a time for you to introduce new listeners to our variety of WCW rewatching, now is the moment, because I can guarantee you nobody before us or after us will go through this era of WCW the way we will. Yes, that is very, very true. You know, I thought about a lot recently. I think we talked about it on the last show, the Vice WCW documentary. And, you know, an argument broke out on there, and I remember tweeting about it at the time. Like, you were like, oh, look, you know, do we ever need to talk about WCW again? And I was just like, you know, as somebody that hosts a podcast about WCW, my whole thing is that, like, if you have different observations, different personalities, different angles on it, you can always reanalyze history. It's the same people telling the same story again. Yes. That gets boring. That's the problem.
And like you said, everybody who's tuned in, like, no matter when you tuned into the podcast, whenever you subscribed, welcome. We're so happy to have all of you. We have become a broad church here at Days of Thunder, and we're happy to have everybody. But everybody knew when they subscribed that we would eventually get here.
Yeah,
we knew.
This is the one everyone's waiting for.
And we said when 1999 started, we said we just have to get through this period, this kind of lame duck Kevin Nash period, where sometimes things are funny bad, but mostly it's just soul-drainingly bad. We are about to embark upon an era that people, both ironically and not ironically, are going to have a lot of nostalgia for. We are I mean, just some of the things I know that are coming up ahead are going to be incredible. And yeah, whereas up till now, for the Thunder Buddies, they've been enjoying it. They're having a great time. They're loving what we've got. But this is where the other people come in. This is where the people that they don't want to hear about 98, 99. They want to hear about the worst of the worst. This is where you got to start calling those people. This is where you got to start tagging those people on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever else, and telling them this Days of Thunder podcast is worth checking out, because I'll tell you what, what's the opposite of a golden era? Because that's what WCW is about to engage on. But we may be entering a golden era of the podcast as a result of that.
Would you say the dark ages of WCW podcasting? But this is absolutely the time to start once again spreading the word, because, you know, our OG listeners did a great job with introducing new people to us, and, you know, we've always said it, we are so much more successful than we could have ever envisaged when we started this show at 4:00 in the morning in Germany. And yeah, so before I wanted to do the Patreon, I wanted to get that out there, that now is absolutely the time to start broadening our listener base even further. But that's not all, because at alargemanappears.com, patreon.com/WCW Thunderpods, we have almost 2 years of back episodes for you to listen to for just €5 a month. So the cost of a cup of coffee will get you almost 2 years of back episodes of shows that we have done. We've done Days of Thunder at the Movies, the first 10 Clash of the Champions shows. Yeah. We have done... What else have we done? We've done NXT Black and Gold.
Covering the WMAC Masters.
Yes, the WMAC Masters, which, you know, we went into with our eyes open and ended up coming out with our hearts full. Yes. We have done so much more. We've had some incredible TRL episodes.
Yeah. Our series where if you bid at the €15 tier on the Patreon, you get to make us watch a show within reason.
and speaking of which, our most recent episode was a TRL episode as chosen by Kim Geist, who gave us, was it 5 matches we reviewed?
5 matches, yes.
A 5-match mixtape, as we like to call them. And we had a collection of Kim's favourite matches of all time. So we had Shawn Michaels Undertaker, the retirement match. We had a Kurt Angle Desmond Wolfe match that some people might not be aware of. Desmond Wolfe, obviously Nigel McGuinness. They were just two of the 5. I can't remember the other 3 off the top of my head. But coming up next on the Patreon is another TRL episode. As long-time listener Mateo...
It spun off our last TRL and a discussion on that.
It did, actually. Yeah, that's true. As long-time listener Mateo has decided to stump up once again. He's actually been a TRL subscriber previously, and he has decided that, based on our discussion on the most recent TRL episodes, that we shall be reviewing a PWG show for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I am not a PWG watcher. I went over this on the most recent Patreon episode, and they've tell us what is the name of this PWG show.
Well, firstly, I will say it will be an interesting perspective because you're not a PWG guy, but I was. Not necessarily at this exact time. This might have been... I was definitely aware of PWG in 2011, but I wasn't watching shows regularly. We'll put it that way. This show is going to be Kurt Russell Reunion 2, The Reunioning. That features an obscene Legends Battle Royal that not only features men barely capable of lateral motion, but also lasts 35 and a half minutes. The only thing we're buoyed by is that the rest of the card actually kind of rocks for the most part. So I'm really looking forward to getting to the nitty gritty on a PWG show. It'll be a definite change of pace.
So that's next up on the Patreon. But yeah, like I said, you will get that and our entire back catalogue for 1 whole month for just €5. So if you feel like you just don't get enough from our free episodes on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, you will get those. And so it's two monthly or two shows per month, plus a solo episode from either myself or Dave every month.
Plus regular updates of my match of the year tracking and
your show
batches of my show notes being posted as well. And sundry other bits sometimes that we think of that you kind of you'll learn about our live streams that we do first as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say live stream. Speaking of which, we will have a live stream next week. Even though it may kill me having to go into work the following day. But yeah, we will have a live stream for the Double or Nothing pre-show.
Yeah. The pre-shows work well for me because I'm usually up anyway. They're like the least arduous thing to fit into my schedule that we do, so I'm always down for it. But yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, you get all that for €5 a month. And if you're not particularly sure just yet, The aforementioned Kim Geist mixtape is actually free. That was at the request of Kim.
Yes.
So you can go check that mixtape out. Listen to us gush for over half an hour about Cena Umaga. And as well, we are going to celebrate the second anniversary of the Patreon on June 1st. We're going to unlock a very early Patreon episode for people who aren't subscribed to be able to listen to. One of our kind of debuts of a series over there. So you can have a little listen and see if it's worth your €5 a month. I'm biased, but I think it is.
And by the way, if you don't want to subscribe for the €5 a month, or you can't subscribe at the moment, that's absolutely fine. There is a free tier. You can sign up for free and you will see everything that we are posting. So you can see if there's something there that really piques your interest. So,
you can sit on the free tier and wait until something that catches your eye comes up and subscribe then.
Absolutely.
This is your best way not to miss out. Anyway, I think we've whored ourselves long enough, sir. Let's get to it.
Now is the moment.
Now is the moment. It's history in the making. It's our first Vince Russo Ed Ferrara pay-per-view, and it's also historic for another reason, Lee, because I looked something up. I missed an exact point, but I have a stat for you that I've been trying to deliver since the last Thunder, but kept forgetting.
Is it Chris Stat? Because I'd be very happy if Chris Stat got delivered.
It's not Chris Stat, who I get would be a dynamite third chair on this show.
I was expecting the Zoom call to just become a 3-screen.
Imagine. Just the theme song hits. It'd be incredible. Love it. Always welcome on the show, Chris. No, it's that as of last week, we are 54% of the way through our journey on Thunder Road.
Wow. I can't believe it's only 54%.
Yeah. There's part of me that's like, we have less than half to go, and it's like, oh my god, we're just only over the halfway.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, 98, not all of 99, and we still have the rest of 99, all of 2000, and the first few months of 2001 to go.
Yes, we do.
Yes. It's buckle up, friends. But anyway, that's neither here nor there for now. This is Halloween Havoc 1999 from Las Vegas, Nevada, as Sheiky Baby would call it. The 24th of October 1999, garnering a pretty okay 230,000 buys for we charted during the year how around Road Wild they kind of cratered. They recover a little bit over Fall Brawl here and Starrcade. So 230,000, it's not like, they're not popping champagne corks, but I mean
it's not embarrassing. Okay. It's pretty okay.
Yeah. So, our opening video package, we have Sting and Goldberg and Hogan and Sting, Sid and Goldberg and Hogan and Sting getting top billing. I do love immediately as we cut to the arena that the first thing we hear on commentary is Tony loudly coughing. Were cough buttons just not a thing back then, or was it just he just thought he was clear? I don't know.
Maybe he just didn't care.
In what will become maybe the epitaph of this era of World Championship Wrestling, the first line he says features the phrase, "We are awaiting the answers to many questions." To which I say, Tony, don't hold your breath. We find out that Ray and Conan have been stripped of the tag titles due to a leg injury.
Yes, apparently Ray is injured.
Yeah, so poor Conan's getting stripped of a belt because his mate's injured. Here's the thing. I'm just going to peel the curtain back on this injury issue at the moment, because Ray is hurt. Ray's knee got fucked up again. Remember we talked about it on Nitro, where he's like, we couldn't tell at the time if he's like just selling like a king or if he's fucked again. No, he's fucked again. But World Championship Wrestling have him wrestle 2 more times before giving him his time off. He wrestles, I think it's twice over the next month.
Yeah, because remember we looked at the cage match and we were like, okay, so he's fine because he spends the next 6 weeks wrestling.
Yeah. Yes, but then he's gone till May.
Oh, fuck, okay.
So we'll have a little bit of Ray in November, and then he goes away for 6 months, basically.
Great.
I can't help but feel when you have a guy with a history of leg injuries getting another leg injury, you probably shouldn't make him wrestle some more. It's kind of wild when you look back at stories like this and remember that this guy is still wrestling now at a pretty high level.
And he's still better than his son.
He's still miles better. Sorry, Garrett.
I'm not sorry. Garrett, you're wrong. You're so wrong on this.
We also have Take a Drink for the first ever mention of the powers that be. Get ready to hear a lot
Who are they,
of that.
Dave? Who could they possibly be?
Who could they possibly be? It's not like they spent the whole of Nitro saying Vince Russo and Ed Ferreira, who they also name drop on this show after going to the powers that be. Mm-hmm. This is incredible. We go straight to our opening contest, which is a cruiserweight title match. Disco Inferno defending against Lash LaRue. Lash LaRue has a special edition lime green Viva Lash Vegas shirt. God bless the man. It looks terrible.
Yeah, I feel like in 2024, Lash would make a much better t-shirt now. Given his caricature artistic skills that he possesses now.
This guy just got this screen printed in 5 minutes at a shop on the way to the arena.
Oh, wasn't there screen printing places in pretty much all casino areas, whatever they're called, foyers or fucking so he absolutely just got this made and was like, I'm wearing this out, and everyone just went, sure.
Yeah, whatever. It's a quick start. I did nearly have to pause the show already laughing at Tony saying excitement for WCW is at an all-time high while the crowd are completely silent, and this would be a feature of the evening. This crowd was terrible. Two, the amount of fucking empty chairs on the hard camera at the start of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was not good. And considering Bischoff wanted to move this company to Las Vegas, ugh.
It's funny, there's a lot of things in WCW that we can draw parallels to stuff that's happening nowadays. And, we recently talked about, the people that compare AEW to late stage WCW just have not watched enough late stage WCW. But I thought again about, obviously AEW's attendances have been very poor for the last while. And while, yes, they have, I have not seen TV cameras expose a bad or sparsely attended AEW crowd half as badly as this. This just led me to believe that there was nowhere that they could shoot in this arena that wouldn't have a whole stack of empty chairs in it, that was the best that they could do.
Also, I don't think they had quite figured out that they could move people from one side of the camera to the other.
Yeah. Some of the seats fill up after a while. I think maybe either the penny dropped or there were people who were already so checked out in WCW it didn't matter if they were there at the start or not. But I feel like, a TV taping, I can get people maybe being a bit late and being stuck in traffic and things like that. But a pay-per-view, surely, again, I've only ever been to one American pay-per-view live. But I would think because they're a more special occasion, you're taking the effort to be there, especially because the amount extra you'd probably be paying sometimes. You're going to be there for the opening bell.
See, you'd have to imagine that there weren't that many people at that point flying to Las Vegas for WCW.
Just flying at all for WCW.
Yeah. So you'd have to imagine these are Nevada residents. So is it just that so much happens and they're constantly going to shows and stuff that it's just I have these tickets and I suppose I'll be there at 7:30.
Maybe. We have a little bit of change to production in as much as we now have the new WCW logo firmly planted in the center of the ring. First pay-per-view for that. And we've also got, because they are the sponsors of the event, Slim Jim logos on the mat in all four corners. I don't mind it. I don't mind the logo being in the ring.
No, I don't.
Look, the older WCW logo I definitely prefer, but I don't have as big a problem with that late stage WCW logo as maybe people older than me have. because again, the WCW I was watching live at the time, this was the logo for almost all of it. So I'm kind of just used to it. I'm not saying it's good.
I like the older mid-90s WCW logo, the purple and gold. But the bug splat doesn't bother me as much as it bothers a lot of people.
No. So, matches back and forth until Lash takes it outside, smashes Disco into the steps, goes to run him into the post, but Disco reverses. He goes for a middle rope axe handle. Lash reverses with a power slam. Lash, again, we talked about how he's green. He's gaining a little bit of confidence here and there, but he definitely needs a lot more reps. One thing I can say firmly right at this moment, he needs to cut out that dive and Rana, Lee.
Oh my God. I was just looking through my notes. I was like, oh yes, the diving Rana where he doesn't so much hit a Hurricane Rana as he spikes himself on his head and rolls through.
Yeah, he power bombs himself and then just kind of limply rolls the rest of the way.
And up to that point, I felt like they were working pretty well. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a good match. Like, it wasn't anything to write home about, but I felt like they were actually working hard, which is, that's
trying.
That's a high standard for Disco. And
I think Lash always tries, but obviously he's, like I said, very green. And there is a relatively low ceiling when the veteran that you have to turn to is Glenn Gilberti in the ring, sadly. So Lash hits a backbreaker and celebrates, which he does long enough for Disco to recover and gain the heat. I liked the story of the match more than I liked the match. I like the idea that they were trying to have of the match is that the brash young kid, Lash LaRue, is kind of feeling his oats, and every time he gets momentum against the Cruiserweight champion, he's like celebrating or he loses focus, and that allows Disco to get back in because he just doesn't have that ring awareness yet. Unfortunately, you're telling the story where the crafty veteran is Disco, so the logic of it kind of falls apart a little.
I did like that Lash had that, like, he wasn't just a clean cut babyface. He did have that little bit of an edge, like you say. He was pretty brash for a babyface, and I thought it was pretty well done. Like, like you say, you're not going to get fucking much out of Gilberti, but they did okay here.
And unfortunately, the Cajun Fried character isn't getting a lot of love in Las Vegas because Disco is like kicking his ass for long periods of this, and Lash is kicking out to complete silence. Tony is trying like hell, in fairness, to get Lash over, like we kind of identified on this last week of programming, is like they are determined this is a guy for them for the next few months, that they are going to try push as high up as possible. Lash hits the Cena spin out powerbomb. Light Disco sucks chant at this point. And kind of like you said, Lee, after that initial kind of first couple of minutes, around the time of that diving Rana is where we get the rest of the match of the two of them just being on completely different pages. Particularly here right at the end where Lash completely fails. He's supposed to duck a clothesline and he just doesn't. So he gets shoot clotheslined. Then they mistime the jump on an atomic drop, and Disco just hits a last dance for a very anticlimactic win for the Disco Inferno. And the bit where maybe their inexperience in telling a good in-ring story shows after the match, because they're trying to ride the line of, like you said, Lash is a babyface, but he's got a brash, cocky edge to him at the same time. I thought they over-egged it a little bit when Lash, the alleged babyface, lays out the man he just lost clean to with a whiplash.
Yeah, maybe, but
if Disco had cheated to win, like if he grabbed a handful of tights when he beat him, and then he lays him out the whiplash, I think there's a lot more of a kind of, fuck him.
I think the fact that Lash had been presented that way, like that wasn't the first time he'd laid out Disco after a match. So no. I think, to say one thing, and it's not going to give them credit really, but like they were pretty consistent in that Lash, despite being the babyface here, he's a bit of an asshole.
Yeah. We get an update from the Revolution. A video of Chris and Dean arriving. Perry says he's been leaving him messages. Dean says, as far as he and Benoit are concerned, they can shove the Revolution up their ass. So the breakup is underway. More of that later. We get a Harlem Heat promo first. Very brief, but essentially tonight is their night and no one's going to stop them. This leads us into our scramble to do a tag team title match because we lost our original tag team title match plan. This is a tag team title Falls Count Anywhere triangle match. The Filthy Animals, this time comprising of Conan and Kidman, versus Harlem Heat versus the First Family, Brian Knobbs and Hugh Morris. I found it interesting that Cage Match lists Kidman and Conan as the champions and that they came out with the belts in spite of the fact that we literally started the pay-per-view with being told they were stripped.
Well, I mean, somebody had to carry them out, and, you know, Nick Patrick just couldn't possibly carry the 2 belts on as well.
God, no. The First Family, some dumbass Halloween masks in their entrance. Just...
Do you
also, they're fucking ugly enough without them, so...
Do you remember that faction that Eddie Kingston and Homicide had in ROH in like 2012-ish, where they just used to show up in like masks all the time?
Oh, kind of. What were they called?
Oh, God. What were they called? But that's what this reminded me of, where you just have this like pretty bad tag team.
Yeah. With
these fucking goofy masks. And Jimmy Hart was there for some reason. Masked up.
Yeah. He's just there. I did like that when they were coming out, doing their entrances, Tony waves to the camera as it passes the announce table. That was very funny. What did you think of this? I feel like this is one that kind of... it's not a good match, but it's like what happens in it is like a good early pay-per-view garbage brawl, I feel.
It was chaotic enough that it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it was pretty terrible overall, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it got the crowd going a bit more, so I can't really...
No, I can't knock it. Like I say, the chaos was good and the crowd were into it.
Yeah.
It's just, if you were to look at it mechanically, I don't think the wrestling in it was actually good.
I should actually rewind for a second and say, when I say the camera, by the way, we should say now that Kidman has started his camcorder gimmick.
Yes.
So that's what Tony was waving at, is Kidman going past with the camcorder filming him, and he's starting to wave at him. So
do you know what? I'm going to make an observation here. I feel like
Kidman was behind GTV.
No, that's not what I was going to say. You know, the character of the video camera carrying wrestler is something that spanned both WCW and TNA.
True.
So, you know, Kidman did it in WCW. We had Alex Shelley and Paparazzi Productions in TNA. The best thing Kevin Nash has ever done. Mm-hmm. And then I think in 2024, I'm going to make a suggestion for our character in AEW to now start carrying an old school camcorder.
Could we call him a camcorder?
I mean, better than calling him Sammy Guevara. Yeah, sure.
Jesus.
I think Sammy would be like a nice...
Well, he already does the fucking vlog, like, so I guess that makes sense for him. So I did laugh at Booker, who was in the middle of trying to chase Jimmy Hart up the ramp and out of the arena, getting a trash can yeeted at the back of his head. Unfortunately, he gets up almost immediately as Harlem Heat beat down Knobbs with styrofoam gravestones. Like, you gotta not do the gravestone bit when they're clearly styrofoam, and you're not gonna sell them like they're not. I will say the biggest reaction so far of the night, I can't believe I'm saying this, was a Hugh Morris spot where he press slams Kidman onto an open chair, which looked fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I felt bad for Kidman. That was fucking horrible looking. Yeah. Jesus.
Booker accidentally, oh my god, something out of a proper comedy movie or bad action movie, where Booker accidentally Harlem's sidekick Stevie through a conveniently stacked pile of empty boxes.
Who left that pile of boxes by the entranceway?
Yeah, so they're backstage. It's kind of like to the side of the stage in a little kind of like just area of the back. And yeah, it's just like this conveniently stacked just about at Stevie Ray's height. And he just barrels through all of them. That is not the weirdest spot in this match, though. We'll get to it in a second. Knobbs takes out Booker with a trash can as Hart grabs a table for Hugh Morris in the ring. Conan's on the table. No laughing matter, which looked like it fucking sucked for Hugh Morris's knees.
Well, isn't that where Conan's arm got fucked up?
Is it?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Missed that because I was too busy. Like, whenever I see someone do a moonsault, as somebody who has experienced knee injuries, I'm just like, that's what I focus on. I shriek. Then we go backstage and I can't believe I'm saying this, Stevie Ray hits Brian Knobbs with a mummy for the win.
Dwayne Johnson was there?
Yeah. No, he was the Scorpion King. How dare you?
Ah, damn it.
Aku Machete, man. Yes, a giant paper mache mummy was just lying conveniently around the big pile of boxes, and he batters Knobbs with it for the win. I remember you saying, so you text me when you were like, I was at about this stage on the show, and I read your text you had sent maybe earlier that day. I just logged on to Discord to check my messages, and I saw this message from you where you were, whatever stage you were at, you were enjoying yourself, and I was like, did you miss the finish of the tag match and the segment that followed? To which you responded, I think I did, yes. So if it had just been the mummy, it would exist in the echelon of funny dumb finishes like Sting getting mauled by a dog that we've loved on this show. But that's not it. It has to have an additional layer of... Vince Russo is not happy unless everyone finishes a segment massively confused. Because meanwhile, while a man is being battered with Tutankhamun, inside in the ring, Kidman has pinned Brian Knobbs.
Well, no, he didn't, because Stevie got the pin on Knobbs in the backstage area.
Sorry, yes.
And a good minute and a half passes as they make their way back to the ring. Yeah. And as they get to the stage, the entranceway, then we hear the 3 count in the ring and the ring bell.
Yeah, it's Morris, not Knobbs, that he pins.
Yes.
In the ring, yeah. We don't even know how. We don't know how he got him down or anything like that.
No, just that Kidman had pinned Morris.
And even though Tony Schiavone was directly beside the ring, also had no idea how that pinfall happened and could not describe it to us. So Booker and Stevie get in the ring. Or no, it's Booker and Kidman have a belt each, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then Booker takes both. And because of this whole confusion thing, so the crowd, by the way, this is where it becomes evident to me that the whole mummy situation was not put on the screens for the live audience. So what the live audience saw was Billy Kidman beat the First Family fair and square. Booker T and Stevie Ray came out and stole his belts.
Yes.
And the Filthy Animals, who have been acting like heels lately, get a massive amount of sympathy, and babyface Harlem Heat gets fucking booed to bits.
Yes, the Filthy Animals that mugged a man, don't forget, took all his belongings.
And still have them.
Yes.
Yeah. And Booker and Stevie, who are being pushed, particularly Booker, as babyfaces, get booed. Fucking unbelievable. And poor Dave Penzer, who we love, had to get on the microphone, tail between his legs, and explain what happened. And then, as you had alluded to earlier, Conan appears to have completely blown out his shoulder here. And Ray and Tori look very sad as they scarper out of here. Then we get Rick and gormless idiot David Flair power walking into the arena with a crowbar. Not that one. leading to our next segment, which is DDP coming out for a promo. Take a drink again, because Tony says that's not on my format, which I think is at least the second time this week that has been said.
I think now is a good time to bring this up. I don't know if you noticed this,
Vince Russo's
but I think it's pretty apparent that Vince Russo cannot book anything other than television, because even the pay-per-views now are booked like a television show.
This felt like an episode of Nitro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it goes, match, segment, match, in-ring segment, segment backstage, match.
I remember way back when we started doing this podcast, and I think there was a 5-episode run before we did a pay-per-view. And it was Snickers Sold Out, as you might recall, was our first pay-per-view show. And I remember us being floored at the time about the complete change in tone, because the TV was booked like TV, for good or for ill. And then when we got to the pay-per-view, it was match, 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 match. I think... I seem to recall us saying at the time that, like, that whole first pay-per-view, they did not cut to the back once.
It was either that one or the next one, but I'm pretty sure it was the first one.
Yeah. And now it is, like you said, it is just a TV show. And we are going to be seeing a hamming up of what was... We can't say this was an entirely Vince Russo thing, because it was definitely a belief Bischoff had in terms of hot-shotting. And that's... They, in this company, see the purpose of pay-per-view as building to the TV rather than necessarily the TV building to the pay-per-view. They will build a pay-per-view, but when you're on pay-per-view, we definitely more and more as time going on have got it's actually more important to them that there's a hook for you to go to Nitro than there is that maybe this pay-per-view would get word of mouth replay buys or something like that.
Yeah, it's like we see pay-per-views now, and like the TV is absolutely seen by more people than the pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. And that was the case then, obviously, as well. But like now, I feel like both WWE and AEW are more inclined to like build to a pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is the blow off, and then we start again the next night.
Yeah.
Whereas back in '99, I feel like both companies were like, yeah, we're going to push you to buy the pay-per-view. But then when you get to the pay-per-view, it's all about, well, this isn't getting blown off in the pay-per-view, because the next night in Nitro, we're going to have to just, continue on this feud. And it was very apparent that the pay-per-views weren't the blow-offs in themselves. Like, there was a couple of big pay-per-views, obviously, where you would get a lot of blow-off matches, but it was, as you say, it was very apparent, especially in this era, where it was more important that, well, yeah, you've bought the pay-per-view, but no, you need to watch Nitro.
And I think long-term, the hazard in doing that, as well as kind of like jeopardizing your pay-per-view business, right, which we see the proof will be in the pudding with WCW by the time all is said and done. But I think even just in a narrative sense, you will burn out your audience, because the pay-per-view cycle is what it is. It's tried and true wisdom, because it operates like chapters in a book. So yeah, you want enough to keep the interest going, that people don't think, right, that's the book closed, I'm never coming back now. But it should have an almost self-contained arc to it as well, like the chapter of a book where there's a particular thread of which there's significant progress. That bit's done, deep breath, now we move to the next, Yeah. And by doing this, where it's like, oh, we gotta watch the pay-per-view, and you're on the pay-per-view, and it's like, oh, like, actually Nitro is more important. You do enough cycles of that, and people are like, why the fuck am I reading? It becomes that kind of like, that airport reader fucking like Dan Brown Da Vinci Code type shit, where like the chapters are like 4 pages long and make absolutely no sense.
Yeah, and quick and soon enough, like none of it becomes important.
Yeah. If you're trying to make everything important, nothing's important.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Anyway, God, this fucking promo. This was like this show, one of the major themes of it. Stop me when you feel the Vince Russo fingerprints. One of the major themes of this show is spanking women's arses. And borderline, if not fully, non-consensual sex.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know we had the segment on Nitro with Kimberly going to the hotel room and, you know, being in the swimsuit, which, by the way, we get a flashback to.
Yes, of course.
On the show.
And is not the only woman in a swimsuit we see on this show.
Yes, that is true. But
I think in this week we've already seen more women in swimsuits than we saw the entirety of 98, 99.
Yeah. But it was like this promo made it very apparent to me. Like I'm not taken aback, but I'm just like, I can't believe I didn't remember this. It was like they sexualized Kimberly so much, like the drop of a hat. Yeah. Like it literally happened over the space of a week.
Yeah. And I think it's made more stark by the fact that she wasn't on TV for quite a while before that, because we talked about it, the row with the Nitro girls. So it's even more, it'd be one thing if she'd been on TV for months and they're like slowly sexualizing her character. I still wouldn't be on board with it, but at least you'd see a through line narratively. But this is like, oh, she's back, plus now all you're supposed to do is look at her. She's on the thing talking about Ric Flair being a 14-time world champion, but he spanked her 14 times. And when she's with Paige, that's just a warm-up. Was it just me as well, or Paige, who, given where he's from and given the level of tangerine he normally is, looked quite pale for DDP on this show, I thought? Like, still probably... like looks like he's made of milk chocolate if you were in the building that night, but just for him, I thought like normally he looks much more sun-kissed.
I mean, you know, Paige was probably in limbo because, you know, his boy is no longer in charge, and now, you know, he's got to answer it to a new boss. You know, it was Nash, before that was Bischoff, you know, before that was Dusty. You know, these are all people that DDP would have been tight with. Yeah. And now there's a new guy coming in, and, you know, DDP probably doesn't know where he stands, and we know what DDP was like back then. He was very neurotic and Macho Man-esque, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, no, this segment, you know, this wasn't good. When I said I was enjoying the show, I didn't mean this segment. Yeah.
He, the thing I think most about Paige is like we haven't been feeling this whole heel run.
No,
but
right from the beginning.
I think this promo itself might be the most insincere. Like, this does not sound like DDP talking. Like, this sounds like him speaking Vince Russo's words. You know, and that might be part of it. Like, he's just not feeling it himself now. Paige says David being invited up to her room was take a drink. Obvious swerve. So mention of a swerve there. And I wrote, this feud is about arses and the word whacking. I don't like it. He challenges Flair to a strap match tonight. And I was, again, one of those WCW things where I'm like, you announce a strap match with no notice. Like, that easily could have been worked in on Monday.
On a pay-per-view.
Yeah. It could even, if you wanted to, like, if it was only a Russo idea and they already had the Nitro written, they could have fucking worked it in over the pre-recorded commentary on Thunder.
Or Saturday night. Anytime. But no, they do it in the ring, show already in progress, so as to guarantee it won't sell one single additional buy. We get the one through line of this show then that I think was fucking badass. And that was Goldberg backstage looking for Sid. Now, we will come back to this, but this was great, I thought. But anyway. Yeah. Tenay is with Eddie. The Filthy Animals and Revolution are banned from ringside. He doesn't like that.
Eddie's showing off what is definitely not Ric Flair's Rolex, and he says every revolution must come to an end, leading us into young Parents Saturn versus Eddie Guerrero. Would you believe this was an intense start? Saturn on top largely. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say I'm stunned that Eddie Guerrero and Saturn had an intense beginning to a matchup.
I know, right? Yes, he throws Eddie into the steps, bridging powerbomb, flying forearm. Saturn just working over Eddie. Eddie gets a bit of arm control, and it's funny. They like as soon as they work a couple of holds, it's not even that long. You can hear boring chants.
Yeah,
like this is the era where any actual wrestling gets booed on major TV. Like, I'm assuming ECW was the one exception of the three. I don't feel like chain wrestling is getting boring chants in ECW.
No, not. I don't want to say to be fair to the ECW crowds, but they always accepted wrestling as wrestling.
Yeah,
while they would have, the Sandman and Mick Foley doing their wild shit, you'd also have Benoit, Eddie, Ray doing their stuff. Ask Paul Heyman; he'll tell you, best fans in the world.
Yes.
But I just feel like you missed out on a great Bobby Heenan line.
Oh,
on the commentary. So Eddie had given Heenan the Rolex to look after while he wrestled a match because he said he didn't trust that stooge Shivani.
Yeah.
And Bobby says, do you think they have 24-hour pawn shops here in Las Vegas? And Tony's like, why, you want to get rid of the Rolex? He's like, no, I want to do some Christmas shopping. I just thought it was great.
Love that man. While Eddie has Perry Saturn in something akin to like a Kimura or something, Saturn stands up, picks up Eddie with one arm trapped, and nearly powerbombs him through the fucking ring. That was fucking great.
I love anybody powering out of like a short arm scissors type move. It's just it's damn impressive. It really
That's
is.
exactly what I wrote. Impressive. Lion Salt attempt. Eddie gets his knees up. Frog splash and a miss. Saturn goes for a springboard. Eddie drop kicks him to block it. Eddie gets crotched and does, I think maybe the rare Eddie spot I didn't enjoy is when he gets crotched and looks down the camera and all but crosses his eyes as he says, "Oh my God." Absolutely cartoony and not in a way that made me laugh in the way that I think he wanted me to. Saturn tosses him for the turnbuckle for 2, picks him back up, goes for a top rope crucifix. Eddie flips out, back up, hits him with a superplex. Flair then walks out with a crowbar into the ring and he stomps Eddie and cracks him with a crowbar for the DQ. Then Kidman comes in, he gets laid out. Tori comes out to save Kidman. And then Flair dances around her and forces himself on Tori in the middle of the ring. And of course, because of the era it is, that Tori has to sell that she really likes it. And that this is very arousing to her to have a middle-aged man force himself on her while her boyfriend has just been clubbed to bits by a crowbar on the floor. Flair bails, and then Flair has to come back out because he forgot to pick up his watch.
Yep. I wonder what could have distracted him.
Yeah. I thought it was a really enjoyable match, and the finish was an absolute fucking mess. And it sucked.
Yeah, the match was solid as hell, as you would expect from them too. Like, really, really good match. And then, unfortunately, we got the angle.
Yeah, there was no need. Like, neither one of these men would have been hurt by a loss. You could have done the finish and then done the Flair thing if you really wanted to. I wouldn't.
Hell, if you're going to do Eddie Ric Flair match, just have Eddie pin Saturn. Yeah, it's not going to do him any harm.
And Vince Russo will cry till the cows come home that he doesn't have a weird issue with women.
Listen, Dave, it's only the first, well, technically second show, it's only the first pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You're going to get plenty of opportunities to hammer that one home.
To the back. And Goldberg is pulled by about half a dozen security men off a bloody Sid Vicious.
Oh, this angle fucking ruled.
Yeah, and Sid, what I liked about this, and maybe it's something that other people wouldn't, right? So the idea is you're paying to see them finally get their hands on each other. By cutting to the brawl when they did, you never actually saw them fight.
No.
So you still haven't blown off that pop of the first contact. You've just arrived at the aftermath of a brawl. And Sid, heroic blade job on this show.
Yeah.
He is just caked in blood and screaming back as Goldberg is hauled off. Absolutely great. We will return to this. Good God, we are just naught for naught on in-ring promos in this show, because Buff comes out and like I needed to take a walk after this. Sarcastically talking about the two new writers from up north. He says he has a problem with them and has a problem with Jeff Jarrett. Mercifully, the promo ends shortly after this. You were going to say something, sorry?
Yeah, it was just, Buff has a problem with the two writers from up north, and then Jeff Jarrett, who's definitely not from up north, comes out.
Yeah, from the opposite of up north.
Yeah.
And Jeff is here to defend the honor of the two writers who we're supposed to forget who they are because they're the powers that be now. Jeff runs out to surprise him as he's talking to Heenan, but Buff is ready for him. Brawl to the outside, back in. Buff tries a 10-punch, gets reversed. Luger comes out, tries to hit Jarrett, but absolutely fucking beans Buff Bagwell with the neck of the guitar. How? How do you miss a man's head with the entire body of a guitar?
So this is, in the span of a month, Lex Luger has fucking buried Buff Bagwell with the neck of a guitar, not the body.
Yeah.
And he also hit Bret Hart in the face with a baseball bat.
Yeah. Just absolutely fucking... Just what a streak he's on.
Reckless Lex Luger. Fucking don't give him weapons.
And then he gets so annoyed that he did that he smashed the guitar off the turnbuckle, and then Luger follows Jeff away. This was terrible.
Oh, awful.
Yeah.
Jeff is not off to a hot start.
We then immediately get much better as we go back to the medic is trying to seal up Sid as Tenay is trying to talk to him, and Sid scares them off and just screams, "Let it bleed." Fucking so metal, man.
Look, we've been on this since he's come back. Like, after the first 4 weeks,
yeah,
Sid has been the fucking man in this company. Sid has been fucking great.
He is the Millennium Man.
Like, get him away from Rick Steiner. This man is he's
a good policy for the next year and a half for anybody. Get that man away from Rick Steiner.
I mean, that's a good policy for 2024.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
But yeah, no, Sid has been fucking just Sid and Goldberg, man. I can't wait till we get to the match.
Yeah. Eddie dying on his arse on the stone steps outside, trying to ring Ray because they're on the way to the hospital of Conan, telling him they need to get back there. And then we get, oh, Jesus Christ, there's not a huge amount to say about this, but the things we have to say.
USA.
It's
USA.
It's Brad Armstrong World Police versus Berlin with the still unidentified large man appearing in his corner. As if the theme of this feud was not evident enough, he comes out in a giant USA jumper.
It's so funny, I can't fucking help it.
He might as well have came out in like American flag Zubaz, like.
I wanted him in like full, 1940s Captain America outfit.
Yeah, from the USO tour. Yeah.
Berlin
on offense early, till Brad reverses a hammerlock and then fires up. Berlin hits a spin kick and puts the boots to Brad. Tries to do an arrogant pin and nearly gets rolled up for the pleasure. Now, this finish, right? So Berlin, they spent a month showing vignettes of this guy. Berlin's coming. Fucking like Gabbo. Gabbo, right? It's like, Smithers, Garbo is coming. Right? He arrives. He has a couple of matches, wins them, and then this finish happens where, like, I think we all assumed, Lee, unless you specifically remembered this pay-per-view, and I don't know why you would, I think we all assumed, right, okay, like, Berlin is going on a winning streak until either he wins a belt or he comes across somebody that he's being fed to who's going for something big. Like, that seemed to be like he was going to go on a streak for a little while. Not only does he not win this match, but the way in which he doesn't win this match is unbelievable. They're basically nearly in the ropes, and Berlin goes for his neck breaker. Brad Armstrong simply holds on to the ropes. Berlin takes the neck breaker bump he normally would. This somehow kills him. And Brad just covers him and wins.
Well, see, Dave, the American outsmarted that dumb foreigner.
But he took the same bump he would have anyway. Just Brad didn't come with him.
You're not understanding the physics. The force that Alex Roy... sorry, Berlin. But it's definitely Berlin, not Alex Roy.
Never heard of that.
That Berlin puts into this neck breaker. So when he falls, he's not taking any of the shock through his system. It's all on the other person's neck. So the fact that there was nobody else's neck there meant he received all of it. It's like, like an electric shock kind of deal.
You're a sham.
Not buying it.
You're a sham.
No, I'm trying here, man. Come on, I'm doing my best.
Immediately at the bell, the large unidentified man attacks him.
The man from Berlin with the big thing beside him.
Yeah.
That's definitely not a wall.
Couldn't possibly think of what a good idea for this man's name. Nothing comes to mind. Anyway, Tenay is now with Flair. For about 15 seconds, this lulled me into thinking it was going to be a good promo until he started talking about sexual assault.
It's funny you say that because I have written down good Flair promo other than the bits about Kimberly.
Yeah. So, like, for the start of it, he's firing up, talking about the filthy animals, and if they don't like how he operates, come find him. And then he starts talking about the strap and spanking Kimberly, and about
kissing Tori.
A line I had missed on Monday that they also show the line in the video package later, talking about giving her a spanking that her daddy should have given her, and, like, it's horrendous. Vince Russo doesn't have a problem with women, though. Definitely not. It's fine. Next up. World TV title match. Chris Benoit defending against Rick Steiner.
Rick Steiner, another person that famously doesn't have a problem with people.
Yeah. Now, very funny watching Rick Steiner trying to do his shitty Rick Steiner act in the ring against somebody who he absolutely can and will not bully.
Yes, that's one of my first notes is let's see this fucker try this with Benoit. Because, Chris Benoit, shy human being, could look after himself in the ring.
Yes. So Rick is doing his thing of, like, bailing immediately. Benoit is completely stone-faced. Rick tries to piss him off and make him come outside. Benoit misses a baseball slide. Rick slides back into the ring and now takes ring control. Back mount, tries to do his punches and forearms to the back. All Rick for a bit till he misses an elbow drop, which makes it a bit more back and forth from that point. Benoit gets Rick in position and hits a superplex, which Rick barely cares about selling. Whip from corner to corner. Attempts a crossface, which gets a reaction. Avoided. Benoit hits the tope. Rick can't take the heat and bails out. Shoves the ref at Benoit, who I think it's Slick, isn't it? It's the ref in this match.
I think so.
Shows him at Benoit, then punts him in the balls. Crowd is fucking awful. They're just not reacting to any of this, but, like, it's Rick Steiner, so I can't blame them too much. We get slow motion bullying heat from Rick. Benoit rolls him up, but a kick out at 1. Benoit is selling utter exhaustion from having to carry this stupid cunt for 5 minutes. Rick with a gut wrench charge into the turnbuckle. Benoit gets a hand in the ropes. Rick does the Benoit release German suplex. I wrote, this is going way too long. No one cares. Another release German. Goes for a suplex. But Benoit gets a desperation DDT reversal. And I think, the reason no one cared is that, well, one, it's Rick Steiner, and two, Benoit's an interesting babyface because, like, people really like him, but particularly at this stage of his career, I don't think he was the, like, babyface in peril babyface. So people didn't have that kind of, like, like if Ray is getting beaten down and people are like, come on, Ray, come on. With Benoit, they're like, this guy will just whip ass. Like, he just needs an opening.
It's not that. That's not what it is. It's that for probably 2.5 years at this point, they had teased going with Benoit multiple times.
Yeah. Is it what we could call Saturn syndrome as well? And
you remember the groundswell that built up around Benoit in 2003? Like coming out of 2002 and 2003, wasn't it the Rumble where he had the match with Angle?
Yes.
And that was like the moment where everyone was like, okay, no, he's definitely our guy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was on the verge of happening in late 99 in WCW, to where when he does eventually leave, they had no choice but to put the belt on him.
Yeah.
But the WCW fans always were with Benoit. It's just that I think they were almost burned at this point because, they teased going with him multiple times at this point and they never quite got there. Like, he was US champ, for a month?
Yeah.
Before he had to drop the belt to Sid?
Yeah, I guess maybe this is just me projecting my need to blame everything on Rick Steiner.
I mean, look, it probably was Rick Steiner's fault.
Yeah, buddy. Welcome back to the dark side. So, desperation DDT reversal. Benoit ducks a clothesline, shoulder tackle, hits some chops, hits his trio of Germans for 2. Rick then whips the ref into Benoit's back elbow. Clotheslines Benoit, brings in the chair. Benoit ducks a swing, suplex, throws the chair at Rick, punches him, punches the chair into Rick, goes for the headbutt, and then again, whenever anything happens to Benoit's head, I just it immediately takes me out.
This was pretty bad because Benoit's going for the headbutt onto the chair. It's a spot he would do multiple times.
Yeah,
but
before and since
Rick Steiner doesn't move and Benoit lands on the chair. Rick Steiner throws the chair up into a falling Chris Benoit.
Chair at him is what I wrote.
Yeah, he did. That's what he did, and it was incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
And yeah, anytime anything
even
happens,
if you don't because obviously they knew way less about CT and stuff, and even if you want to give him that benefit of the doubt, you're like, the way he fucked the chair at him, like, you could easily end up with like a chair leg in the eye coming down because like the chair is completely out of control how it's coming towards him.
The whole point of falling onto the prone chair is that you can control the way you land
and where you land on the chair.
Yeah,
100%. A sockless Dean Malenko then comes out and immediately turns on Benoit by leveling him with a chair, rolls the ref in, and Rick wins.
I feel like we need a sound drop that we're going to get a lot of use out of at this point, where we just have swerve, bro.
Yeah. Do you know what I read this as? I didn't read this as a swerve. I read this as Russo and Ferrara came in. They saw what was plotted out for the Revolution. They didn't really give a shit about the Revolution, and they're trying to speed run the entire rest of the... I think the pairing them off into 2 and 2 was originally supposed to last a couple of months, and then Dean turning on Benoit was going to be the culmination of that, and they just went, fuck it, let's just get past that in one night and just get to the end of this thing. That's kind of what I read it as, is just like, this is the kind of... We're getting this whole week... Whatever storylines are in progress that Russo and Ferrara have no interest in keeping are going to be binned or fast-forwarded.
And hey, I'm at that point, in 1999, I'd be all behind a Chris Benoit singles babyface run.
Yeah. Unfortunately, these gentlemen will only have 2 more months left in the company.
Because Mike Graham can't keep his fucking mouth shut.
Yeah. Anyway, where are we next on this fucking
Mike Tenay is backstage with Bret Hart.
Oh, yes. To talk about Lex's attack on him and how doctors have advised him not to wrestle. He says, doctors always seem to paint the worst picture, which is, again, eerily prophetic. Him talking about doctors not allowing him to wrestle, given, again, talk about somebody that's not long for the ring in WCW. He says it's not the first time he's wrestled Hurt or wrestled Lex. I love that he puts the idea of having to work injured on the same level of difficulty as having to work Lex. Very funny to me.
I mean, working Lex is probably harder.
Yeah. What else have we got? Yeah. Injury or not, Lex will be excellently executed tonight. And this leads us straight into Bret versus Package. Lex had some trouble tearing off his Hot Cops pants, which I enjoyed. But other than that, I think the visual, the aesthetic presentation of this entrance is very good.
Oh, yeah. Like, look, come here. You cannot deny that by 1999 standards, Lex Luger looked incredible.
Yeah.
Do I think in 2024 you want somebody looking like Lex Luger all over your TV? I do not. Yeah. But you can also see, the face ages. You can't stop that. No matter what you do, you can't. And you can see that Lex isn't a young man anymore. Mm-hmm. And he certainly does not move like a young man anymore.
Yeah. And
this match was fucking bad.
Yeah. It was desperate.
Not good.
No. Like, I have some spots in here, but, like, I just...
Like, it was, a couple of minutes of Lex working over the leg.
Yeah. That's about it. Yeah.
If you're agenting a match, I don't think your first choice is going to be, right, Lex, you're going to work over the leg and keep working over the leg and work over the leg some more.
Yeah. And then there's a bit where they do a spill to the outside, and like that's where he really starts selling that he's got a busted wheel. Mm-hmm. Liz is distracting the ref as Bret then hobbles to Lex.
Do you know that hip toss to the floor spot?
Yeah.
Was that Bret's nod to the past?
Maybe. Although it's hard to think about him caring at all tonight to put in something like that.
Bret always cares.
I guess. Rolls him back in. Lex takes an opportunity and starts working the leg again. Bends it around the rope and applies a single leg crab, and Bret just taps out. It's just wild. Bret just tapping out, and not even to the torture rack, obviously, because it's the leg. The crowd hated this, by the way.
Oh yeah, on a show full of fucking bullshit, we have Bret Hart cleanly tapping out to the whole package. Like, of all the matches.
Yeah. Is what it is, eh? So Tenay then asks Goldberg if his actions have made Sid more dangerous. Goldberg urges us to look at the blood on the floor. That's what he does. Tonight he's going to separate Sid's head from the rest of his body. Fucking rules, man.
Let's just move on from that. We won't say too much. Let's just keep moving, because I got to tie into that to the match.
Okay. Medusa, last seen refusing to be in a bikini, comes out in a bikini, complete with cleavage glitter, to show off the new Nitro cologne. This is an...
I don't think the cologne was the only thing that was new.
No. I will tell you one thing. This is a classic Russo era WC. I've already said classic Russo a few times in this show. But this is classic in as much as he doesn't understand that he's not doing what he thinks he's doing, because he writes this segment to promote the new Nitro cologne and it gets buried deep beneath the earth. Because she comes out, you can't even tell what she's doing. She's moving the bottle around too quick. The camera's too far away. You can't tell what it is. The commentary is starting to explain that it's the new Nitro cologne. No one in the live arena knows what it is, so they're all wolf whistling and saying, I'm sure, horrible things to Medusa in her bikini. She stands on the table showing it off. She says things like, the bottle is very shapely. It's a big blue bottle to go with my big, and then trails off. Yeah. She says to tell the two higher echelons, the superpowers, that she thinks this is bullshit. Throws the bottle on Heenan, who proceeds to bury the cologne they were just trying to sell. Says it smells like manure.
Yep.
Well, I know about you, Lee, but I couldn't wait to go out and buy my bottle of Nitro cologne.
I mean, you were 11?
Yeah, no, I was 10. Couldn't wait.
It was either that or your Lynx Africa. Yeah. Well, go on.
I was going to say, it's not even the worst segment this hour because I just saw what's next.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next match on this card.
Okay, so we get a Hogan and Sting video, and I genuinely think I need a breather. So could you take the office for this and explain what the fuck is going to happen?
Okay, so match number 7 on this 10-match card is the world title match.
Yeah.
You know, fucking buried in the mid-card here. Hogan's music plays, and Hogan does not come out. And we get, Brain and Tony going, don't know what's going on here. Is this mind games? Is this Hogan's politicking backstage? I believe they actually use that term, politicking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hogan doesn't come out. So, or no, it's not politicking, it's power play. That's the term they use. They say power play. So, Sting's music starts. And the announcers are confused. They bring up that the world champion normally comes out second, but Sting comes out. Hogan's music plays again. Still no Hogan. Eventually, Hogan walks out wearing a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah.
He's got the denim on denim.
Mm-hmm.
Black bandana. So maybe it's Terry Bollea.
Yeah.
He comes out. He proceeds to have a conversation with Sting. We should add, Sting comes out not looking very happy.
Yeah.
I know
they both have big annoyed faces on them.
Yeah, I know the idea is that Sting's a heel now, but even by annoyed heel mannerisms, this is not normal.
It feels like it feels weird to say, but he looked like an out of character type of mad. Like Steve Borden was mad, not Sting was mad.
So Sting and Hogan proceed to have a conversation. Hulk Hogan proceeds to lie down, and Sting covers him. Nick Patrick counts to 3, and Sting's music plays as the fans boo the fuck out of this segment.
Because something that was made apparent during the ages that Hogan's music was playing is that there were so many people that were just here to see Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
There were so many, even though we're long since over the man, there were so many Hulk Hogan signs, so many people dressed in red and yellow. They were showing fans through that whole sequence of his music playing. And I don't think they showed the same fan twice. There were that many of them.
There was multiple people that had the Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy.
Yeah.
There a lot of these people were here for Hogan, and so Sting's music plays, the fans boo like fucking crazy. And I want to say it's about 3 seconds before we go straight into the Sid versus Goldberg package.
Yeah. Now, I think one thing I will say is that if you have, and I wouldn't have done this, obviously, but if that is the decision you have already made, the only thing you can do is immediately go to the incredibly hot match.
Yes.
It's the only thing that's good, because I think this show is gone. The crowd have taken over the show for the rest of it if you do anything else after it.
But before we move on to the next match,
yeah,
I believe you went digging in the Observer.
Yes, a little bit. So normally we only do this on the normal Thunder episodes, but I feel the context for what was happening should be explained, because this, we kind of said that this, what happens at this pay-per-view is the start of an era of Russo's weirdness with Hogan. Right? That extends well into next year. I have this feeling that Bash at the Beach 2000 might be our first multi-part pay-per-view review podcast, because I can't see that fitting into one show. Fuck me. But I was like, I remember reading back about this time and so many people not knowing, and not in a good way, not in a cool inside baseball, they've really suspended disbelief, but people being pissed off at going like, is this a shoot, work, shoot, the who was really annoyed and why. So unbelievably, this isn't to be laid fully necessarily at Russo's feet, because they've only been in here a couple of weeks, and I had written all-time WCW moment, and then this bit from The Observer takes over. The Hogan angle, of which part 2 went down exactly as it was scripted 2 weeks ago. To their credit, a lot of people who should know better also thought this was unscripted, is at this point. So this is, I wanted this enshrined in the record for what happens when Hogan does come back. So this is currently the plan as of this angle, which was the one they had been planning to do since this Hogan Sting feud started. It's supposed to lead to a Hogan hiatus, right? Now try and hold back your laughter for some of this next bit, with the idea that he's not getting along with management, and come back as an anti-management Steve Austin figure, probably early next year, with the talk being he'll come back as a real person ring name Terry Bollea, as opposed to the caricature of Hulk Hogan he's become. So he's going to come back as Terry Bollea and return to do shoot-style promos. The negative of that is that to make this work, it has been made clear on television that Russo and Ferrara ordered him to do the job, and he refused since he had creative control, and this was the end result. At least it gives him time to rest his knee, says Dave.
So, for those not following,
yeah,
and it's pretty simple. Before Russo and Ferrara came in, the booking plan was Hogan became world champ, Sting turned on Hogan, got the belt, Hogan was going to lose again, and then he was going to disappear only to return as Stone Cold Terry Bollea. None of that can be blamed on Vince Russo.
Yeah.
Now, Russo was only too delighted to be rid of Hogan. That is an undisputed fact.
Yeah.
Russo has said multiple times across many years, so it's not something that he just says willy-nilly and makes up on the spot.
And look, here's the thing, like, we even identified on that first Nitro how immediately the way Hogan was portrayed was complete, and Hogan's mates were portrayed, with maybe one exception, completely different. Like, you can tell this was a head writer with didn't have stars in his eyes about Hogan like Bischoff did, wasn't his buddy like Nash was, wasn't a kind of like somebody that saw him as this big walking money bag. Like, this was the first guy, like, because I guess even when he left WWF in 93, like, Vince was trying to push other people up the card, obviously, but still saw tremendous value in Hogan. It wasn't like Savage where he was going to put him out to pasture. He still saw value in Hogan. Whereas this is the first time, like, he has come up against somebody, like, who has come into the position of power over him and just gone, yeah, you're fucking washed, bud. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, as we say, like, Russo has said multiple times, he didn't want Hogan, he didn't want Nash, he didn't want Flair.
Yeah.
He wanted those guys out of the way as quickly as possible so he could build up Jeff Jarrett, Buff Bagwell, Billy Kidman.
Now, it's very funny that of those three, Nash is the one that sticks around like a fucking cockroach. What a worker.
Because Nash will work anybody.
Because he buries the other two, in one case quite literally, but we'll talk about that later. But this was terrible because, like, again, like, we're less than a year since the finger poke.
Yep.
And the finger poke should have taught them, don't do this again.
Why didn't Hogan just do a job?
Yeah. I mean, there is a fucking evergreen question of Hogan's career anyway. But if he was...
genuinely, if this was the story from before Russo and Ferreira came in, why all of a sudden was Hogan playing this I'm not jobbing?
That's not going to work for me, brother.
Yeah, like, famously, yeah. Why is he all of a sudden like, okay,
maybe,
no, I'm not putting him over?
We talk about Hogan the politician, and maybe this is a guy that got the read on Russo and how Russo felt about him straight away. And he's like, I'm going to try and do the power play here and show Russo that he's not bigger than me. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to make life difficult for him early because I don't think he put stock in me. And it's just made things worse for everybody.
And if that's the case, there's only one person in the wrong here.
Yeah.
And it's not fucking Vince Russo.
No. And, like, you won't hear us say that often.
No, and genuinely, like, I'm not trying to say that Russo wasn't wrong many times, because he was, and we will point it out as we get there. But, like, in this instance, there's one person in the wrong here, and that's Hulk fucking Hogan.
Yep, for sure. Oh, anyway... let's move on to something much more. And look, you know, considering you've been hyped about talking about it for this whole show, let's leave the momentum with you before I take back the office. This is the WCW United States Heavyweight Title match, Sid Vicious versus Goldberg. This is the match you've been giddy about this match since Sid arrived in WCW.
I have had this match earmarked. I haven't watched this match in years. And my God, did this not fucking disappoint. I fucking loved this.
Yeah.
Like Sid, like instantly, Sid coming out with his face still caked. Like, it's not caked in blood, but it's like
matted
drippings of blood.
Yeah.
And like his hair is already matted. And from then, like, okay, Goldberg comes out and we get Hall and Ash jump him to kind of level the playing field, shall we say. I can live with that. I don't love it. I can live with it because it's evening things up a little bit, giving you that little bit of doubt in your mind that what's going to happen. But they instantly brawl at ringside and reopen that cut. They do not waste any time. And Sid, you said it, he pulls an all-time gusher. I don't think it gets talked about enough. The fucking, like, Muda scale is off the scale here, because Sid is just a fucking mess for this entire match.
Yeah.
I love blood and wrestling. Like, it adds so much.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think you can be like a wrestling fan and not like feel things when you see something like this, like the visual, the right blade job. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's definitely. Oh yeah, no, come here. I'm not watching fucking Jimmy Lloyd go into a scissor board and feeling what I feel watching this match.
You're just not watching Jimmy Lloyd.
Yeah, well, I'm not. Yeah, I don't watch GCW because I have fucking better things to do. But. Well,
just the things you take a stand on is just so funny to me.
GCW, Brian Myers. What else?
Edge, but you've recanted. You're still standing firm on Seth Rollins.
Oh yeah, Seth's a fucking geek.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we really have, like, I mean, we were right at the time about Edge, but man, like, I'm just thinking about that guy again this week, and it's like, fuck, this AEW run has rocked, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been great.
But that's the thing, like, we can be right about things at the time and then concede to be wrong later. Because again, the thing is, like, you'll shit on GCW, but then, like, they will occasionally have wrestlers do runs there or put together a match where you're like, fuck me. Do you know what I mean? But I do agree with you on the scissor board stuff. I think a scissor board garbage brawl is something that I have not been able to get on board with. Myself, anyway.
Look, I'm happy to be proven wrong. It doesn't happen often, but I'm happy to be proven wrong sometimes. But so the big thing with this match for me, apart from the blood, which is awesome, is that Goldberg, from the moment he shows up on this show, he has, like I talked about with Lash. Lash had that edge and was a little bit heelish. Goldberg is so much more. It's not intense because he's always been intense, but he has this dangerous edge to him that he hasn't had before.
It's, for want of a better term, he's vicious in this match.
But it's not only the match. It's literally from the moment he arrives in the building.
It's true. Yeah.
That's not something we've had. And I think, like, I'll credit Russo with this one again. He's added something to that Goldberg character. Because in the build-up to this match, it was just, Sid's the heel and, he's the one ducking Goldberg, and Goldberg's, they had built him back up and put him back towards main events. But Russo I'm going to say Russo and Ferrara have identified that this is a man that should have been at the fucking forefront of this company. This whole pay-per-view cycle, I know, started before they came in, but it's been all about Sid versus Goldberg, and it has really they've elevated each other back to where they should be.
Yeah.
And I think Sid puts in one of the best babyface performances of his fucking life in this match.
Yeah, which is mad. Yeah, I love this match as well. It was insane. Like, it was just... There's no real, use in... Again, it's another one of those, there's no real use in recounting individual spots, because it was just like...
It's not about the spots, though. This match is... It's all about... Sid won't stay down. And the commentary are just like, this man is nuts. He just won't stay down.
Yeah.
And Goldberg just won't stop attacking him.
When Sid gets Goldberg in a camel clutch and is screaming like an insane person with blood dripping down his mouth.
The eyes.
And then Goldberg just powers Sid up into an electric chair drop. Mm-hmm. And then it just keeps going as well after that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a bit where there's a chin lock and I'm like, right, they're finally going to slow down. And he gets the chin lock in and then starts elbowing Sid directly in the open wound.
Mickey J, again, fucking great referee. He's making sure you see him check the cut.
Yeah.
And he is checking the cut a lot, but he's not overdoing it. He's not overhamming it either.
Goldberg his torso is sprayed in Sid's blood, by the way. There's just specks of blood all over his chest.
And then when he does stop the match,
how you want to talk about, again, giving Russo credit, we hate to do it, but how fucking boss is this match finishing on a blood stoppage?
It's like the 7-foot giant has lost so much blood he can't get up beyond his knees.
Yeah.
And the referee has to step in for his own good. And then, we see Goldberg doesn't even celebrate. Goldberg is just pissed off. And then Sid at one point gets back to his feet and Rick Steiner is out going, no, you can't. And again, Sid is just no, I want more. He is just fucking such a badass babyface here.
Yeah. This paid off way better than I had even hoped.
And I just have, they have to turn Sid on the next Nitro.
Well, I mean, it's not... I know by 2000 he is a babyface, but I can't remember when the turn happens.
I don't remember the exact turn. I know it's that he gets into a feud with the Outsiders.
Yeah. It's around the time he starts just wrestling in jeans. He's firmly a babyface by the time he's just in his jeans wrestling.
But yeah, no, this is one of my favorite matches on our entire run. I loved this.
It ruled. And like doing the like Rick Steiner coming out, and you're like, oh fuck, they're just gonna ruin this perfect thing with Rick Steiner trying to fight Goldberg. But he just comes out and he collects his boy. And then you have Sid again, like you said, the not knowing when he's given up, like he's beaten, he's bloodied, and he thinks about coming back to square up to Goldberg again, and he's just like, I just don't have it in me. The other thing about this is that your winner and new martial arts division champion via blood stoppage, Billy Big Time, Bill Goldberg. That is the best martial arts division title winning method of all time. Blood stoppage.
You can almost retire it there. We won't. You almost could.
Yeah. Then we go from the sublime to the ridiculous. We have what I have described in 4 words here. Flair sexual assault recap. So it's the replay of the hotel angle from Monday, including a few dodgy lines I missed while being horrified the first time round.
I was going to say, did you watch the Dark Side episode in between matches?
It feels like it. Sting is back and he's sad. He says he didn't come here for a night off. He didn't have a bat on him. I mean, if I had a bat, I would have fucking clubbed myself to death with some of this stuff on this show. He said he didn't come for a night off. He came for a fight. If anyone backstage hears him, he came to Vegas for a fight. Later tonight, he'll come out looking for anybody to fight. Next up, we get a strap match. Diamond Dallas Page versus Ric Flair. I did not enjoy this match.
This match sucked.
Yeah. This is one of the times where you're like, you know, you talked about the people that Russo was trying to write off as washed at this point. It's like, if you're... It's well documented Flair's kind of like disagreement with the repeated times Bischoff tried to put him out to pasture. If you're trying to impress the new guy, if you're either, like you said, DDP, who's very self-conscious and neurotic about himself, or you're Ric Flair, who's supposedly got a bit between his teeth about being told he hasn't got it anymore, this is not the match you put on. This seemed lazy, disinterested. It couldn't follow. It wasn't even... I was going to say couldn't. It wasn't even that they realized they couldn't follow the Sid Goldberg match. Yes, they didn't try. They just went, fuck it.
Ric Flair lazily fucking gigging his head because, you know, he's Ric Flair.
Yeah.
After that fucking incredible bloodbath before.
Yeah.
Like, just fuck off. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, have some fucking pride in your work.
And even just the laziness of the booking in here is that, like, they had been doing the thing for a while after Charles Robinson, that whole angle had stopped where they weren't putting Charles Robinson near Flair in the ring, and they did here, and you're like, oh, are they going to play into it? And no. It's just because that's the thing we can lay at Russo, is just that this is a man who clearly had no idea what was really going on before now, so there's no sense of continuity existing really, unless it suits him.
And is it just me, or was there was this match just multiple fucking ball shots?
Yeah,
just
loads of ball shots.
People hitting each other in the fucking dick.
Yeah, the 3 count at the end of this, where I think it's like, it wasn't executed well, but the idea of DDP wrapping the belt around Flair's throat and hitting a diamond cutter is a cool idea in theory, but it didn't look so in execution. It felt really slow, whereas the whole joy of the diamond cutter is that it comes out of nowhere.
Yes.
Robinson calls the 3, but almost doesn't hit it the 3rd time. But he doesn't sell it like he's trying to help Rick win. Like, that's not the intention here. It's sold like he didn't know this was the finish and was trying to pull his hand up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not... I don't know. Maybe you read it differently to me. Like, I didn't think this was they were doing the Charles Robinson heel Flair's mate character. I thought this was just Charles Robinson blew the finish.
No, Charles Robinson just blew the finish.
Yeah. And it confuses and annoys the entire crowd. And then DDP, thinking on his feet, just hits Robinson with a diamond cutter as well. The thing is, right, even if you want to try give them the benefit of the doubt and say this was just it was intended for like it to be Robinson really having hesitancy about counting a pinfall on Ric Flair. They did not communicate that in a way that would satisfy wrestling fans. They communicated it in a way that made everybody look stupid and annoyed everybody. So which is
something that won't be, that will be repeated multiple times.
Whether you were trying to do a bit or you fucked it up, either way the result was the same. Everyone was mad about it. So Gormless Idiot David Flair comes out with the crowbar, not that one. Kimberly low blows him and DDP batters Flair's leg with it. Flair does a stretcher job, and what's really funny is he's bashed his leg in with a crowbar, and they put him on the backboard and go to put a neck brace on him, and you can hear Tony muttering, putting a neck brace on him makes no sense. They hit him in the leg. Like, just completely... It's just completely destroying the whole thing. They also tried to sell this leg injury like it was career-ending as well.
Yeah, we just had a guy out there dying. Like, literally, blood leaving his body was dangerous.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we have Ric Flair out here doing a fucking stretcher job after getting hit with a crowbar.
Tony characterized Flair riding Kimberly on Monday as fighting his son's battles, which is weird. Then as they get to the ambulance, the animals attack Flair and the medics, and then David, and they pile him in an ambulance. And I'm pretty sure you know what this led to on Monday Nitro.
I do.
And we will, I am sure, see a replay of it on Thunder. So we'll talk about it more.
You ain't watching that Nitro.
But this is very infamously the angle where the filthy animals bury Ric Flair in the desert.
Yep.
So in your last year alone, Ric Flair has had a fake heart attack, has been committed to an asylum, and now is about to be buried in the desert. And that is not the end of the indignities that will happen to Ric Flair before the end of WCW.
No, because he has to see his son wrestle multiple times.
Yeah, way. So yeah, that's that, I guess. Then we have Sting coming back out and his challenge being met by Goldberg, who doesn't have his new US title or his new martial arts division title with him. So, this is an absolute mess, in as much as the lads big it up as being a world title match.
They do.
And then they are told through the headset that it absolutely isn't.
Yes. But nobody tells Dave Penzer that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, please describe what then goes on to happen.
So Charles Robinson, who was just attacked in the back, literally sprints to the ring to referee this impromptu match that we knew about in advance.
Yeah.
The only thing we weren't supposed to know about was who the challenger was, not that there would be a match.
Yeah.
So why Mickey J or Nick Patrick weren't out there, I don't know. Mm-hmm. So Goldberg and Sting have I think a pretty good little sprint of a match.
Yeah.
It doesn't go too long. It's only like, 3-4 minutes?
Yeah.
If even. So Goldberg goes for a spear in the corner, misses. We get 3 stinger splashes. Sting whips him into the ropes. We get a leapfrog, and Goldberg catches him with a spear out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Jackhammer, as the place goes fucking apeshit.
I did love, by the way, Sting hitting a spear was very fun to me.
It was actually very good.
Yes.
The crowd, by their own standards, are going fucking bananas.
Yeah.
Jackhammer, 1, 2.
Sorry, I have one line in here about Robinson that I didn't hear if you said, was where they said, no way Robinson's going to be back. Yeah. As he's coming back.
As he sprints down the fucking WrestleMania 18 style.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get spear, jackhammer, crowd go fucking apeshit as the 1, 2, 3 is counted. And Charles Robinson presents Goldberg with the World Heavyweight title, Dave.
Yeah.
As he is announced as the new World Heavyweight Champion.
Mm-hmm. gets announced as new heavyweight champion. Heenan says, "Don't look at me." I wrote, "What the fuck is this?" Robinson and Sting argue, and he hits Robinson with a death drop.
Yeah.
Heenan says, "Why not?" Completely giving up on wrestling, and I feel the same. Here's an interesting thing, Lee. So, they say it's a title match. Then they say it's not a title match. Then they announce and award Goldberg with the title. But then on Monday, they will clarify, in fact, that it was not a title match. But in fact, Sting is also stripped of the World Heavyweight title tomorrow night.
Because he lost, yeah.
Because he lost and attacked the referee.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah.
So, like, one would say, would you not have just had Goldberg have the title?
Well, it's the way they wanted to get to set up the tournament.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if you noticed, Dave, but Vince Russo very successfully booked a tournament called the Deadly Game.
Yeah.
Where he made a new star in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one thing we will learn over the next 3.5 months of television, it's that Vince Russo will go back to his playbook again and again and again.
Can I just tell you that every second you need to be prepared, because this title switches hands
87 times.
Okay, so there are, I will say, we won't say switches hands, we'll say there are, this is how many changes to the title situation there are in the next 3 months. If you include it being vacated tomorrow night on Nitro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 by the end of January. And I am not kidding when I say every second one of those 11 changes in status are the title being vacated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say who, because I don't want to spoil the journey, but I will say Sting has the title now and it's vacated. Someone wins it, then 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 it's vacated. Someone wins it, and then someone wins it again that same night. And then that's just the end of January.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if you're somebody that enjoys long title reigns or logical title reigns or just things that make sense, you are not going to enjoy the 2000 history of the WCW title.
Before we go fully on board with burying Vince Russo, because we will.
Yes.
Can I give him and Ferrara a little bit of credit here?
Okay.
They came in, and at their first pay-per-view, not only did they have Goldberg fucking destroy Sid Vicious, who'd been insanely protected since his return, and win the US title, but they instantly put him back in the pay-per-view main event.
Yep.
Now, it was an impromptu, fucking confusing main event.
Sold no extra buys.
But they still put him back in the pay-per-view main event, which is a place he hasn't been since December 1998.
Yeah, this is like the one good instinct they had was, hey, this Goldberg guy is a pretty big star. And not only is he a pretty big star, but he's a pretty big star who wasn't ever a pretty big star for the other guys. He's a unique asset that we have. Yep. We should probably use him a bit. Now, as we will go on to cover, this is not something they stuck to in a great way. Nope. They would not exactly pull this off masterfully. But look, we'll chart that as we come to it. At least their first instinct was right.
Yeah, on their first pay-per-view, they did right by Goldberg and the company, for the most part.
I mean, it speaks to the maxim everybody has always had about Vince Russo. Vince Russo can write a chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
And even like, look, you heard about, we had a lot of misgivings on this show, some attributed to him, some not. Even his chapter 1s are not exactly home runs, but he can write a chapter 1 that sets up some things that maybe you'd like to see. And one of the things I want to see from my WCW is Bill Goldberg on top.
Yep.
So that's that, Lee. That's Halloween Havoc in the bag. Do you want to give us your overall thoughts on the show and your winners and losers?
I mean, first of all, winners are undisputedly Bill Goldberg and Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
I think of everybody on the show, they are probably... Hang on, to scroll back through the matches. Yes, they are the only two, I would say, that come out looking in any way strong or stronger than they went in.
Yeah.
Losers, I mean, look, fucking Hogan and Brett didn't have good nights. Package didn't have a good night. Fucking Berlin is dead. Gone. Done.
Yeah.
And the Revolution storyline just continues to get fucking muddied. But the show, for all of its faults, wasn't terrible. And I think when you consider the reputation that Russo's WCW rightfully has,
Yeah.
as you just said, Chapter 1 wasn't bad, and there was a lot of stuff done right.
Yeah.
But that is not something that will continue.
I think the terrible stuff on this show, like the bad stuff, was terrible. But
Yes.
I think there was enough that we liked that it kind of, at least in terms of quality and things like that, there was more to enjoy on this show than there has been in a lot of Thunders towards the end of that Nash era, and definitely a couple of the pay-per-views.
And as you said, there is, again, undeniably Vince Russo's fingerprints all over a lot of the female segments on the show, or segments that contain females.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
No. And whereas I think there's, we're going to talk a lot about the Russo and Ferrara approach. Dave talked about it in The Observer when we were reading it out there on the last show. Like, the approach is scattershot. It's throw 100 things at a wall and see what sticks. Like, odds are, when he has those kind of approaches to television, there are going to be a couple of things that work. The problem is that the percentage of things that work drops precipitously over time. So we just enjoy these things like Sid and Goldberg while we can. Enjoy Goldberg getting pushed right back up to the top while we can, because these things won't last. Anyway, the finish counter, brought to you by Ludwig Borga, has 10 matches with 4 clean finishes, 1 DQ, 1 interference leading directly to a finish, and a record 4 miscellaneous shenanigans, which I specified as broken down as win via mummy, win via blood stoppage, win via laying down, and win via weird ref. So that's your breakdown.
What the worst of them is. I mean, I suppose win via laying down is that's undisputed, because at least you could say the via mummy is kind of funny if you don't care. I mean, if he had a show that's a rap as he hit him with the mummy, that would have been better.
Yes, yeah. Look, we'll workshop it. Anyway, thank you all very much for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. We'll be back in 2 weeks on the free feed, in a week over at largemanapears.com. Make sure you go check that shit out. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. Days of Thunder was produced by Lee Malone and edited by me, Dave Ryan. To keep up to date with the show and find all the ways to listen to us, you can follow us on Twitter at WCW ThunderPod, or click the Linktree link in our Twitter bio or in the show notes. I am at the Day to Dave on Twitter, and Lee is at Malone_713. Days of Thunder is a part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Follow the VOW network anywhere good podcasts are sold for more fine podcasts that you can shake a stick at. Thanks.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.